in the nervous system about the innervation of the adrenal gland? Does anybody remember?
Was it direct?
Yeah.
For the sympathetic division, there is direct innervation to the medulla of the adrenal gland. And then that product got released into the blood. Now we're going to have to deal with the cortex and all that sort of stuff, okay? But they're very complementary to each other. One regulates the other. Like I was just saying, a nice little cycle. Nerves will say release or not release and come back, and the chemicals picked up in the blood will tell the nerve to either release or not release. It's really kind of cool. In this system, we're going to find something called a neuroendocrine cell. Now, let's take that term apart. Neuro refers to what? Around? The nerve, okay, part of the nervous system. Endocrine, meaning part of my endocrine system. Here's how that's going to work. In that area of my hypothalamus, and where I've got my pituitary gland, all right? It's not quite that lobed. Okay? We're going to find that we have an anterior pituitary and a posterior pituitary. My anterior is cell-like. It's basically cellular. My posterior pituitary is nerves. I know it kind of looks like a bad stick person. Okay? Now, what that means, I'm going to have a nerve fiber that goes to my hypothalamus. And that nerve fiber in the hypothalamus, which would be the neuro part, the nerve portion, coming to the pituitary, which is my endocrine. And that is going to happen with the posterior pituitary. Okay, we'll see a picture. But when we say neuroendocrine, they're acting like a neuron. But the product that they create, and there's only two in my posterior pituitary, that's it. The product they create releases to the blood, which means an endocrine portion. So we're going to find that we've got our neuroendocrine cells. The two products, one of them is oxytocin. Have you ever heard of that? What does that do?
It's during childbirth.
During childbirth. Do you know the other hormone that might be located in the posterior pituitary? Have you ever heard of anti-diuretic hormone? Those are the only two in the posterior pituitary. Now think about that. Because when you see the list of hormones, that means all the remaining hormones got to be from the posterior pituitary. We're talking about a gland that is the size of roughly a green pea. maybe a lima bean. That. That. To me, this is amazing to know that that is one of the things controlling my body. And trust me, if one thing goes wrong with one of these hormones, y'all ever had a hormone go wrong? Known somebody that's had a hormone go wrong? Okay, what happens?
Well, my friend, she just had surgery on her pituitary gland, and so she's on medicine for the rest of her life because I guess how they had to remove the tumor off of it.
She had a tumor on it. She had the surgery.
Yeah.
Did they go up this way?
It went through her nose.
It went through her nose. Okay, okay. And how's she doing?
She's fine now. She just has to take medicine from her.
Right, right. My sister has that. She has the tumor, but she has a chemotherapy pill that she takes every month to keep it under control. But until they diagnosed what was wrong, she had more health issues than anybody I'd ever known. What kind of stuff was your friend suffering?
Her eyes were hurting her. The tumor was pushing on, I guess, the nerve. So.
Oh, okay. So that was a pretty good sized tumor then.
Yeah.
That was pushing. Okay, okay. Did she have any problems hormone-wise? Like,
After now, I don't think she had them before.
okay, and they're just trying to regulate all the medication, which could take a while because, you know, when you begin to, like people, for example, with thyroid issues, like hypo or hyperthyroidism, it can take a while to actually regulate that medication for it to make the body feel and function normally again. So it takes a while. So that's a major difference of what happens between the nervous and the endocrine system. With the nervous system, pretty much everything that happens, it happens quickly. We get this, you know, we get the action potential, the nerve does what it does, releases its neurotransmitter, and boom, you get a reaction. Now, it becomes an issue of once these chemicals get released in the blood, they have to make their way through the bloodstream to their target cells, which will be the cells of those organs that we listed as the endocrine system. So now it's a longer response that occurs. It sometimes days for these chemicals to work and get out of the system and all this other sort of stuff. So the response times are definitely different now. The key to this system's function and it functioning correctly, these cells on the target tissues, they need to have the proper receptors. So when you think about a cell, which that's pretty much our idea of a cell, where we've got the nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi, all that sort of stuff, but we can also have on that membrane receptors. So now, if I have a chemical messenger flowing through the blood, blood has access to all the cells by way of the capillaries. Okay? So when you're looking at an organ, though that tissue, okay, which is made up of cells. Think of it like this is our organ, okay, and then we've got all these little cells that are a part of that organ. And then we have our blood supply coming in. Around these cells, do you all remember that we have extracellular fluid? The fluid that's around them. So if those chemicals are traveling in my bloodstream and they make their way to my tissues, if this is a target tissue, this would be accepted by this receptor. If that happens, is everybody kind of following me? Okay? If that happens, it then becomes when the receptor accepts that chemical messenger, that hormone, it will now cause a reaction in that cell. Everybody with me? Okay? Now remember, the cells do their job. If they're cells that duplicate, they'll duplicate. If they're cells that generate a product, they'll make their product. All right? So what this is telling me, that chemical messenger affects what that cell does. Either make more, do more, make less, do less. Okay, is everybody with me at this point? So we're going to have to make sure that those cells that are the targets, that they have those receptors. Now what this means is throughout our body, we only have receptors for the chemicals, and this is the hope, okay, sometimes things can go wrong, that the cells that need those chemicals are the only ones that have those receptors. Anything else, we're going to run into some problems. So, when the receptor accepts that chemical messenger, i.e. the hormone, the cell's activity is now altered. All right? A lot of times, we will hear that the pituitary gland is our master gland. The pituitary gland is a very good conductor. Think of an orchestra, okay? And you've got the guy up there going, okay, doing all that sort of stuff, which I've never really understood. Okay, that's just me. Okay. The ultimate control for the pituitary comes from the hypothalamus. So, this primitive region of the brain is controlling the pituitary. This hypothalamus, it is regulating primitive functions, which means that the pituitary